Hi BookTube, it's Missy, and today I'm here to share with you guys my December wrap-up for 2018. If you guys have been wondering where I've been sick for the last 2 weeks, so that was fun. The beginning of December was amazing. I put up a video saying that I was going to be doing Vlogmas. I was doing Vlogmas pretty much every day. I think I missed like 1 or 2 days because of having to work and do homework with the kids and so forth, and I was just too tired to film and upload anything that day. But the very last video that I made for you guys was my around the year and 52 books. Now, at that point in time, I was about 12 books shy of my goal of 52, and I was looking forward to, for the next 2.5 weeks, to finish up those books and have like this really good solid end of December. So what I did was I decided to do a vlog the weekend of the 14th, 15th, and 16th. So here's a clip of the beginning of that. Hi BookTube, it's Missy. Today is Saturday the 14th, 15th, that's the number. And I will be doing a vlog for the rest of the weekend. I will be attempting to read as many of those books from my Around the Year and 52 Books video that I posted yesterday. So right now I am currently sitting on my bed and I'm about to eat my, it's 10:42, so I'm gonna say it's breakfast still, not brunch, but it's a mixture of things, and read 2 books. Let me share those with you. Here's my little breakfast. Grapes. This is a little burrito that I made, and then that's a brownie. That's not breakfast, but I wanted it. And then we have The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime by Bark Haddon. Bark? That's funny. Mark. Your brain, when they do things, is funny. That's not even... My brain's stupid. Anyways, so this book looks really easy to read. Hopefully it's a fast one. There is illustrations, the font size is pretty big, and yeah, looking forward to that one. Oh, I kind of bent this stupid cover. Anyways, and then I have The Agony House. I just posted this on Instagram. This is Cherie Priest's latest book. It has regular, you know, novel writing, but then it also has panels in it, like it's a graphic novel. So I'm hoping that this is fast. Yeah, so there's that one. So I'm going to be reading these 2 books, eating my breakfast, and once I've finished those 2 books, I'm hoping that'll take me until maybe 1, 2 o'clock. I have to go do laundry, and so I'll be bringing another book with me. I don't think you guys want me to vlog in the laundromat, but I will share the book that I read when I go there. So it's been hours. It is now dark outside. When I first started this video, I started at like 10 o'clock, something like that, and I got 3 chapters into Agony House and wanted to take a nap. That's the bad thing about reading on your bed. That's why we don't have a TV in our room, because in college our psychologist said that whenever you have a bed, that's so stupid. Everyone has a bed. Anyways, he said that the bedroom and the bed is strictly for sleeping. If you use it to do anything other than sleep, your body gets confused, because when you lie down, you want to fall asleep, blah, blah, blah. So we've taken that to heart, and as adults, we've always never had, is that a double negative? We've always not put a TV in our room. And anyways, so yeah, 3 chapters in,
I was falling asleep. And if I would have started reading that book on, say, a chair in the kitchen or in the living room, I wouldn't have gotten tired. So I put it down, took a nap, and when I got up, it was then 1 o'clock. That was an extremely long nap. I know, it's ridiculous. And I was like, oh no, okay, so tomorrow's my husband's birthday, and I knew that if we wanted to go out, I wouldn't have time to do laundry, so I had to do the laundry. And whenever I do laundry, I always take a book with me because I stay in the laundromat so no one steals my clothes. So I picked up The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime by Mark Haddon. I read up until page 50, which was about here. So you can see that, that's page 50. Not too much. I'm usually in the laundromat for about an hour and 30 minutes. That's how long all the clothes take to wash and dry. And yeah, so I didn't get very far. So I read 3 chapters of Agony House. I read 50 pages of this book, and then my friend Stephanie just texted me and said if I wanted to go see a movie. Yes, I of course always want to go out if my friends call me, and so I won't be reading anymore today, or at least not right now. When I get home from the movies, maybe I'll pick up a book for a little bit. Who knows? Either way, this is what always happens when I decide I'm going to read for like 24 hours straight. Things pop up and then I don't end up doing what I said I was going to do. So I will keep you guys informed whether or not I picked up the books again. Otherwise, I will try to get as much reading as I can done tomorrow. If I can just get Agony House and this book done before Monday, that would be amazing. Because like I said, I have 12 books to read before the end of the month. And I'd like to get going on that, if you know what I mean. So I'll talk to you guys later. Bye. It's now Sunday. And so last night I did go to the movies. I did not read anything. This morning I woke up. Today is my husband's birthday, so I made it a little bit extra by giving him hash browns. And then basically I did nothing for the rest of the day. We did go and get some alcohol. We're running errands right now. I'm gonna go to Ross. Fun times. Who knows if I'm gonna get to the reading portion of this vlog. I might have to continue the vlog on Monday too because I am lazy. Anyways, I'll talk to you guys later. We are back at home. Sorry for the noise. Cleo's putting the dishes away. So we ended up going
putting the dishes away.
We ended up going to a whole bunch of stores. It is nighttime now. I'm about to make dinner. So again, I still haven't read. Our mission today was to get my husband some alcohol from this really nice store that's next to our house so that he could make something that he saw online. And then he wanted to get a TV while the sales were still up because we don't buy TVs very often. Ours is really, really old. Stop it. Seriously. Don't be a jerk.
I'm never, ever trying to be mean to you.
Yes, you are. Anyways, so yeah, just wanted to give you guys a heads up. I am home now. And once the children are sleeping, I will definitely be reading. So I'll share the books with you later. So it's now 9:30 and I still haven't read yet. My son Keanu's project for history is due on Tuesday, and of course we waited until the last minute. But I cut out the tablets, or well, yeah, I guess they're called tablets. So I have these things, if you can see that. His history project is the 10 Commandments, or at least that's what he wanted to do his project on. So I have 2 of these cardboard pieces cut out for the tablets, and I didn't have gray poster paint, so I had to make my own gray, which I'm pretty proud of myself because it came out perfect. So I'll show you a little bit of that, and yeah, I'll try to do more reading. After this is done, it's drying, I've taken a shower, everything's ready for tomorrow, then I will read. I should be able to read for at least an hour, maybe 2. Okay. So this is what I'm using, this Crayola washable kids paint. The cool thing about this poster paint is it's non-toxic, so I've used this on my older son's face for like face painting. I made him a whole like Spider-Man thing, and yeah, it didn't like give him a rash or anything like that. So there is the first stone tablet, and that's what I used to make the gray. So I did a tiny bit of white, a lot of brown, and then a little bit of the blue, and that turned out to be pretty good granite color or stone color. That was just the first layer, so I have to paint it again. And yeah, once these are both painted, then I'll let it dry for tomorrow, and then tomorrow I'll write in the commandments for him, and then he can present it to the class. Hopefully he does well. Well, that's the final product. I ran out of brown. I'm practically out of white. So this is the best I can do. It's got like, I don't know, you guys can see there's a little bit of different colors going on. Kind of look more like stone, a little bit. I tried my best. You can still kind of see the cardboard, and I definitely don't have enough to paint the back, so he's just gonna have to deal with the fronts being painted. Oh well, it'll look good, I'm pretty sure. Oh, get them out. Hello, it's Monday. Today I was supposed to have this video edited and uploaded for you guys. So yesterday, I think I kind of did a little thing in the car, maybe. I talked about how my husband and I went on some errands that okay, here's the story, okay? We left the house to go to Hobby Lobby to get some spray paint. I may have said this already. So that way I could help my son create the 10 Commandments on stone tablets for his history class. Now, we didn't go to Hobby Lobby. We ended up doing a whole bunch of errands. My husband was determined to buy a new TV. We don't need a new TV. I think I said this as well. Like, ours is fine. It still works. It's not.
This was present for us.
Yes. Yeah, so he wanted a new one. He wanted a bigger one, so we got a bigger one. It's gonna look ridiculous in our house because our house is so small. But right now, instead of reading, I am playing Uno with my son. So I'll show you a little bit of that. Hold on. What's do you see the TV behind you?
It's a Christmas present.
Christmas present. What are we going to be playing?
Uno.
Uno. Did you say hi to the people?
Hey, YouTube.
Hey, YouTube. Okay, say goodbye.
Goodbye.
So I started off strong, and I started reading the books, and then things started happening. Monday, I realized that my son was late on doing his history project. And so I had to do his 10 commandments. Now, if you guys don't know, I think I say this kind of often. I don't know. My son does have autism, and so it is hard for him to do a lot of things for dexterity reasons, because he doesn't have a very good time holding objects and really, you know, I mean, he's 11, but he still kind of colors and writes like he's in kindergarten. So, of course, I had to help him with his project, painting and putting the words onto his 10 commandments. And so, yeah, I was up pretty late Monday doing that, and I knew that I would have to have it turned in by Tuesday so he could share it with his history class. And then Tuesday rolls around, and my husband's like, hey, so Wednesday I'm supposed to be dressed up as the little boy, the round-faced boy. His name's Beryl from the Nightmare Before Christmas. And so I'm thinking, okay. He's like, I know you're really good with makeup. Can you please turn me into this character? And so I don't know if I have footage, but if I do, obviously it will be in this video. I end up having to go shopping for like 4 or 5 hours, where I was looking up clothes at Target and Ross and Old Navy and all these places where I could get a plain gray outfit, just gray like sweatpants and a gray sweatshirt or long sleeved, where I could paint on it so that way he could have the costume as the character. And then I had to go and buy green hair dye. Little did I know that that would not work, which was a bummer. So Tuesday night rolls around. I come home after shopping for forever. I dyed my husband's hair. It doesn't work, and he's miffed. And I'm like freaking out because, you know, I want him to look good for work. I don't want him to be embarrassed, and he needs to look like the character. So now it's Wednesday. Wednesday he needs to be dressed up for work. Wednesday I go into work early because here in California, and even in Hawaii when I lived there when I was little, you always get out of school an hour early on Wednesdays for some reason. So I rushed to Walmart and I found 2 different green hair dye things. There is the Color Wrist, I believe, from L'Oreal, where it's a spray, just like the Halloween spray you can get at Party City. That one is really good. It's about like $10. And then there's also this other one called Splat, which is kind of the same thing, except for it's not in an aerosol can. So it's got like this brush that you can just paint on, and it's a one wash kind of thing. So I get home. My husband chooses the aerosol spray. I spray his hair. He looks perfect. I do his face, and here is a close-up of his makeup and the other 2 people in his group. Now, I don't know if they will be upset that I'm sharing their pictures on YouTube, because these are his coworkers. But as you can see, he is dressed up like Beryl, the character, whereas the other 2 people have a devil and a witch hat. Like, they have the headgear, but they're not dressed up like the characters. And it made me a little sad, because when I dress up, I dress up. I go all out. I mean, I should have been in drama in high school, and I missed my calling. Like, that would have been super fun. And yeah, so my husband looked a little strange at work because he was fully decked out like it was Halloween, and nobody else was. Yeah, so that was Wednesday. Now comes Thursday. Thursday is the last day where I can make cookies for my coworkers, and so I took Thursday off, which was my kids' last day before Christmas break. So they're at school. I am designing all of these cookie ideas, right? So I have all the ingredients spread out on my countertops. I've posted this on Instagram. Here's a couple of pictures of what I'm talking about, like the array of all of the cookies that needed to be done. It took me all day. Like, I did all that, and then I had to go shopping for any of the supplies that I was missing. I needed some more nuts for one cookie, and I needed something else. Oh, like molasses. I couldn't find it for some reason. It was like on the bottom shelf of an end cap. Anyways, it was a disaster. So by the time I got home, I was super tired, and I just wanted to take a nap before I had to pick up the kids from school. And I get them, and then I start my cookie making process. So from 3 to midnight, I'm making cookies, okay? So every single day of that week, the 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th, like all of those days, I am up until midnight, either painting, shopping, cooking, all of this stuff. Friday rolls around, and it's my last day of work. I am Santa. I'm walking around with all of these bags of cookies. I ended up making 6 different cookies along with 2 snacky kinds of things. I did a pretzel rod dipped in chocolate. It was a Rocky Road pretzel rod. And I also did the Muddy Buddies, which is a cereal with chocolate and powdered sugar and peanut butter and everything, which was delicious. Yeah, so Friday's done. I'm so excited to be done with work for the next 3.5 weeks. And I go out with my friend Amy, and we go to dinner, and we have wine, and we talk story for a few hours. And then I get home, and everything seems fine. Everything seems fine. So I start my reading again. I'm like, okay, I'm really gonna do it this time. I wasn't able to read all week. I wasn't able to film all week. And so I start reading, and you know, I hang out with my husband and everything. Now it's Monday. Now it's last week. It's Monday, Christmas Eve, and I am sick as a dog. A lot of my coworkers were sick the week before. One of my coworkers was actually out Thursday and Friday for the flu. And then the woman that I went to dinner with, Amy, was sick with the flu over that weekend. And then I ended up getting the flu that Monday. So I had a high, not high as in 104. Parents know right off the bat, just by feeling children approximately what temperature they are. You get so good at it that you don't even need a thermometer anymore. So I was about 102, and I was literally sleeping for 16, 18 hours for like 4 or 5 days straight because my fever wouldn't go down, even though I was taking, you know, NyQuil, and I was taking all the different like Aleve to like relieve the fever and some of the symptoms. I was just fully gross and sick. And then my husband got it. And for some reason, whenever I get sick, it lasts a really long time. So I have been super sick for the last 2 weeks. And I'm finally here today to film. Not only did I get my husband sick, but I also got Keanu sick. And he's still sick. Thank God my 13-year-old hasn't gotten sick. I don't have wood around me. Oh, my bookshelves. Knock on wood. He doesn't get sick because that would just make the cycle start over again. So now we're into our, well, we're almost at the end of our 2nd week off of school, and I've been sick the entire time, and it has not been fun. But I was able to read all of these books in December, even though I was super busy, even though I was sick. So now that it's been 12 minutes, let's get started in the reviews, shall we? The very first that I finally want to talk about in this wrap-up is Off Season by Jack Ketchum. Now, I did receive this from a friend. Shalise sent this to me in a trade-away, and it had been sitting on my shelves for about a year, maybe? I can't remember exactly when we traded, but I finally picked this up, and it's blurred by Stephen King. It says, if you read Off Season on Thanksgiving, you probably won't sleep until Christmas. Now, that is pretty generous in its claim that this is going to be a scary book. I have to admit that I have a very high threshold for scary books, and nothing really scares me. So when I go into horror, I'm usually pretty disappointed when I get to the scary bits, I'm like, really? That was the part that's scary? So this is kind of set up strange. We have two different POVs. Well, it's like kind of like three at the beginning. So at the beginning, it talks about a girl and she's being pursued by children, okay? These children are pursuing her through the forest, and they're chasing after her, and she's freaking out. Now, it says part 1 here, and it says September 12th, 1981. 1981 is the year I was born. So it starts off on the 12th, and I normally like it when books share with you like the time frame, but because it has two different POVs really in this book, it's hard to go back and forth between the people. So like I said, there are some rural, savage little children. They're like feral kids, and they're chasing after this woman in the forest, and they're trying to kill her. And then we skip that, and we go to, well, here's some more times, but we go to another portion. So now we have part 2, and this is September 13th, so this is the next day. We meet a woman who is an editor. She's taken time off over the summer to kind of, you know, edit something, a book of whatever she was doing, and then also to relax and have a breather from work. And so she's in this cabin, and she's cleaning this cabin up for her sister and her boyfriend and a few friends that are going to come and stay with her for a little bit. Now, this cabin is in the woods, pretty deep, far away from civilization. It's a small town. I believe this is in Maine. I think it's in Maine. So we have that. And then the other perspective is the police force. So we have this old policeman who is on the verge of retiring, and we have his the person below him who will be in line for his job once the old man retires. So we have this police force, and they have heard rumors of feral children and like cannibalistic people that are living somewhere on the beach, and they are the ones responsible for the lady in the woods, the one that, you know, the little kids were chasing after her. So they're trying to figure out how this woman fell off the cliff, you know, how she got hurt, who these kids are, and then we have the woman, the editor, who's in the woods. So so far it sounds pretty boring, right? Well, it was. 50% of the book is our main character, the editor, cleaning her cabin, and the police talking amongst each other. Then we get to the actual cannibals. Now, they stake out the cabin on a night. That might be part 3. I think that might be part 3. So September 14th, the 3rd day. So the first day, the lady is chasing the woods. The second day, our editor is cleaning her cabin. The 3rd day, her sister, her boyfriend, her friends are all in the cabin, and the cannibals are staking out the cabin because they're going to attack. Now, that's basically it. It goes and goes. The torture scenes in here are pretty graphic, but if you have read American Psycho by Bret Easton Ellis, this is pretty tame. I mean, there's eating of people, but the torture isn't as horrendous as it was in American Psycho. Now, that is way more graphic than this is. And it kind of has a pretty crappy ending. Like, there's no, I don't know, it's like, it's not a happy ending, obviously. It just kind of ends, like lots of people die, and that's basically it. I think this had gotten so much praise in the horror community and by Stephen King because it's so horrific in the graphic cannibalism, but other than that, it was pretty lame. I mean, this is just torture porn. So if you like slashers, then you may like this book. I don't think I'm going to keep this. I would never pick this up again. And Shalise, I'm extremely grateful for you sending this to me. I always wanted to test out Jack Ketchum, and this is his debut novel, and it had to be adjusted because when it was first written, the publishers wouldn't publish it the way it was written because it was way too graphic. This one is the author's uncut and uncensored version. And because of that, somehow it went through the process of editing and it got messed up like dreadfully. Our main character's name is Carla. That's the editor's name. But 90% of this book, her name is written as Carta. Like they messed up on the L and they put in a T. So the editing of this book was horrific. Like just the whole overall general book, I gave it 3 stars for creativity on cannibalism, but I didn't really like the book. I don't really like this man's writing. It's not fluid. It's not poetic. It's not I don't know. It's not Stephen King. When you read Stephen King, you are invested in each character. There's a backstory. There's a reason for everything. It's so meticulously planned out. This was just meh. And I know a lot of people have said, well, you should probably try his Girl Next Door book. I think that's the, oh yeah, The Girl Next Door. I am okay with torture porn, but The Girl Next Door is a little too graphic, and especially since it's a girl, I could imagine myself in her shoes, and I don't ever want to be assaulted in that fashion, and I don't want to read about that either. So, I'll be, giving this away because this is a 3-star, and I don't keep 3 stars on my shelves normally, and because it just wasn't my taste. I just didn't, it was just okay. 3 stars. All right. The next book that I finished in December was The Strain by Guillermo del Toro and Chuck Hogan. This is the first book in a trilogy about vampires. Now, I did listen to this on audio. The narrator is amazing. He is actually Hellboy. So, I can't think of his name right now. Is it Ron Perlman? I think that's his name. So, Ron Perlman is the narrator of this story. And if you like Ron Perlman, he, like I said, was Hellboy. He was also the Beast from the TV show Beauty and the Beast, and he was in something else, but I can't think of it right now. Anyways, if you like his voice, you're going to love this book. I fell in love with Dr. F from Good Weather. He's just a smart and very charismatic and like family man. Like his wife and him didn't get along because he was so busy with his career. I can understand a man really wanting to pursue a career. Even a woman can do that too. But because I'm on the side of like staying home with their children kind of woman, I never had a problem with that. I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom and a housewife even when I was little. So to have a strong husband seems to be a good thing, but his wife didn't enjoy that, and so they got divorced, and now they're having this whole like divorce fiasco with their child. But you can see the love that Ephraim has for his son, and it's super sweet, and I hope that it gets better in books 2 and 3. Now, what this book is about a plane the plane's not alive. The plane lands in JFK Airport. And when it lands, it completely goes dark. And so the towers flipping out because they don't know what's going on. The plane never taxied to the, the gate to, drop the people off. It's still sitting on the tarmac in the middle of traffic, so planes can't land. It's all in the way. And finally they send in Good Weather because he is the highest ranking official for the CDC in this canary project. And the canary project is you go in and, with the canaries and the mining, if the canary dies, then you know that the air quality is bad and people need to leave. So the canary project for the CDC is they go in when there's a disaster and they see what the disaster is, and so they can fix it. And when Ephraim arrives, the entire plane seems to be dead. All 200 passengers, including the pilots and all the crew. They're all dead. And they remove everybody, and a few people actually survive. And those people are being quarantined at the nearest hospitals to find out what kind of virus or chemical warfare or what happened on the plane and how do they keep it from spreading throughout New York. Come to find out, it is vampires. And these vampires are so cool. I love vampire stories. I love supernatural. And this one in particular, there is the older generation of vampires, the first ones. But what happens is they're actually a virus strand that creates these vampires, and there's this thing that shoots out of their mouth like a stinger that is actually what bites the people, burrows in and infects them with the virus, and then more people turn into vampires. That's all I'm going to say about this book. There is a TV show and a graphic novel series. Too much of it away. I do want to say, though, that these are scary vampires, that this is an adult series. It's just a really good story. And Guillermo del Toro is a director of Pan's Labyrinth. So if you like his director... If you like the movies that he has directed, you're going to love the way this book is set up. It's set up as if it's a movie. Not like it's a script or anything, but you can visually see that this is a movie. This could have been a movie. And it's just so well written and exciting, and you really get interested in the vampires and how everything is set up. And this, again, is the first book in a trilogy. So we're getting the vampire business set up, and we're finding out how everything works. In the second one, I'm sure it'll talk more about the history of the vampire and how Ephraim and his crew, he has his partner and then an old man and then some other people that he has brought into his circle, how they are going to help stop the spread of vampirism in New York. And it was just such a good book. I gave this 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. If you like vampire books and you like adult-based vampire books where there's no romantic injection, there's nothing romantic about these vampires, then definitely pick up this series. I really liked it. The next book that I read and was part of that pile of books that I wanted to continue to finish for the Around the Year in 52 books is The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime by Mark Haddon. I gave this book 4 stars. This is a literary fiction, and I don't read much literary fiction. This is about a boy named Christopher who is on the autism spectrum. He's more high functioning. It doesn't specify, but I would say he has Asperger's. He's very well educated in math and in maps, and he's good with articulating what he wants to say, but he doesn't like being touched, and sound is very hard for him because it blocks his sensory So he is very affected by sound and people and crowds and so forth and so on. Now, I've told you guys this before. The autism spectrum is huge, and there are so many little pieces of it that you could be under. No two autistic people are alike, and so even though he may be good at math, that doesn't mean all autistic kids are good at math, or all kids who have Asperger's are good at math, or so forth and so on. So this was pretty accurate. Mark Haddon is not autistic, so this isn't an own voices kind of book, but he does an amazing job at writing the voice of a child with autism. I was really affected by this book. Like I said, I did give it 4 stars. It makes me super sad that even in this day, people don't understand autism, and we don't have enough awareness in the public on social media. You know, just generally, we know that children have autism. We know that people have this disability, but it's not that talked about. It's not even taboo. It's just, there's just not enough information. So it's put on, you know, TV or in movies, and you get the unique quality of autism, where people, you know, are like savants, where they're really good at something. But that's not how all kids are. And with Christopher, he doesn't like loud noises, so when he's in a large crowd, he shuts down and he screams, and people are looking at him like he's a bad kid. At one point in time, a police officer accuses him of killing the dog, which is what starts the entire story. And he goes and he grabs Christopher, and Christopher doesn't like being touched. And a lot of people, even if you're not on the autism spectrum, does not like to be touched. But he doesn't have the ability to be aware of his reactions. So his first reaction is to punch the officer for grabbing him, and that's assaulting an officer, so he gets arrested. And it freaks me out, because this is something that I may have to deal with one day. My son doesn't like to be touched, and I don't want my son being arrested or not read his rights to where he could understand, or, you know what I mean? Like, there's no one, I don't know if there's somebody at the police force that deals with people who have autism, knows what to look for and how to represent these people. And it just freaks me out as a mom. My son's 11. What is he going to be like when he's 15? What is he going to be like when he's an adult? How are other people going to react around him? Even though this is a mystery novel about who killed this boy's next door neighbor's dog, it still has a lot of things that need to be talked about and addressed. And so for that, it was really, really heart-wrenching for me, because I was scared and nervous for this child. He goes on this journey alone. He does a great job, and he's mostly safe, but I don't even let my son cross the street by himself, because he would not look both ways. He will get hit by a car. I have to be with him when he's crossing the street, or someone else to either hold his hand or his arm, or have him hold me, just so I know that he's safe. And this, like I said, this book freaked me out. It was well written. Like I said again, Mark Haddon did an amazing job with the voice of Christopher. I think this should be taught in schools. I think that anyone who has a child with, with this kind of disability should read this book. It may not be life-changing, but it's definitely something that needs to be addressed, so that way more people understand what it's like to have autism or a sensory disability, and how to react to those kinds of people instead of immediately assuming that they're stupid or that they're troublemakers or that they are doing this for attention or what have you. I just really think that it's important that people read this. Wow, too long. Okay, the next book that I completed was Wild. This came without a dust jacket, which bugs the crap out of me. This is a nonfiction by Cheryl Strayed, and this is about her journey on the Pacific Crest Trail. Now, I saw this one day as an excerpt or, you know, one of those like teaser pages in a Reader's Digest forever ago while I was in the doctor's office, and I thought, I totally want to read this lady's story. I mean, how cool is it to be a woman alone on this long hike? It's like 2,000 miles. You can go from Mexico all the way to Canada on this trail, and I was really interested. And because I'm an avid hiker, my husband and my kids and I, we go on 2 separate camping trips every year where we do very long hikes, moderate to strenuous, depending on how long it is, because, you know, sometimes my kids can't walk that many miles. But we have done, our longest has been a 14-hour hike, and the kids were amazing. So I've always wanted to try this Pacific Crest Trail, and reading her story was inspiring. I gave this a 4-star. It was very informative, but it was also very cringy, as in, as a hiker, I know what you are supposed to carry. My husband is a huge naturalist fan, as in he has a bug out bag, and he watches all of these videos on how to survive in the wilderness, what you need when you go on long trips. He wants, our next journey will be backpacking a short distance somewhere in a national forest. That's what our next goal is. He is already making backpacks for us, and so this is our next step. Now, I probably won't be able to do the Pacific Crest Trail because it does have heights. There's a lot of trails that are on the sides of mountains, and my husband is afraid of heights, so he can go on long treks up small hills where there's no huge drops. And so I don't think we'll be able to do this particular hike, but it was fascinating to read. And again, cringy because she just, in 1995, they didn't have the internet and enough resources and research on this trail because it had barely just been completed for her to really research and find out what she was supposed to bring. So her backpack was just over packed, and she didn't have the right things, and it was such a long journey, and there was just so much that she had to deal with, and she isn't a likable character whatsoever. She seems like she's 26 when she goes on her journey, and to me, I had 2 children at 26, so I feel like I was more adult than she was. She was just pretty whiny throughout the whole thing, but she had balls, and to have done this alone is just amazing. I really enjoyed this book. I highly recommend. If you like nonfiction survival books, if you like anything that has to do with hiking, or if you are interested in the PCT, or if you like just, you know, women journeys alone for like self-discovery and reflection, I would pick up this book. It was really good. I read it in a day. That's how good that book was. All right. And the rest of these books, again, all fit under the category of trying to finish up the pile for the Around the Year in 52 books. So I did end up finishing Fateful Place by Tana French. This is the 3rd book in the Dublin Murder Squad series. This was not as good as the first 2 books. The first 2 books we follow 2 different police officers, like detectives that are part of the murder squad. The first book, we follow a man. The second book, we follow his partner from the first book. And then this book, we follow a man who is undercover. He's an undercover detective. And I don't believe I saw his name in the first two books, which I thought that they would just follow a different detective from the same group of people, but I guess that's not the case. This wasn't as good because the story was a little bland, although I did listen to this on audio and absolutely love the slang and the accent of Irish people. I really, really enjoy their slang. It's just so fun to read and listen to, and we don't have that kind of stuff here in America or in North America. I don't even want to say North. In the United States, I don't feel like our slang is fun. The English, British, UK slang, all of their little quirks on what they say is super fun. We have lame things here, like that's bomb, which is super old, by the way. That just dates me. But like that kind of slang comes and goes. Those are trendful slangs. Like these slang was just, it just stays in their vernacular. Is that how you say it? Oh man, I had to took linguistics in college like a million years ago. So anywho, I enjoyed that portion of the book. I didn't enjoy the plot of this story. Our main character is Francis Mackey. He grew up in a pretty poor small town called Faithful Place in or outside of Dublin, I believe. So, you know, Dublin's like a main city, and then this was just a smaller, like, section of a working class people next to a Guinness factory, and everyone is pretty poor, and they all live in, it would be considered like a ghetto of Ireland. And so he fell in love with this girl named Rosie Daly when he was in his teens, and they decided they were going to get married. And the day that they planned on running away, Francis is outside waiting for her, and Rosie never shows up. He feels that she has left him for London alone, and so for the next 22 years, he's had this idea that she left him when he was young, and that he just went on with his life, and he had this but he also had this feeling of maybe one day they would find each other again and they would reunite. And so he goes through life like that. But then one day his sister Jackie calls and says that she has found a suitcase with Rosie's stuff inside. So Francis goes back home after 22 years of being away. He hates his family and he does not really want to be there, but he wants to investigate. He is undercover, so it's the wrong department, so he gets a friend to come and help. And his friend ends up saying that what he thinks happened to Rosie is not what really happened to Rosie. So Francis the entire time really wants true answers, and he tries to delve deeper into this investigation on the sly. Like he's got all these like hookups with friends in the departments that owe him stuff so he can get information, but the main character or the main detective is like keeping him out of the loop, and all of this family drama is going on in the background. Now I didn't like any of his family. I didn't like Francis either. His daughter Holly is awful. She's 9, and somehow, which is a huge thing in this book, like he didn't want her to meet his family because his family's rotten, and he didn't want her to be polluted by their evil ways, yet that comes with blood. Like, just like in the animal kingdom where they're born and innately they know that they're supposed to do something, people are born with inherited traits from their family members. I don't know how it works. I don't know how the DNA codes all that and knows to pass it on. But his daughter is just as corrupt and evil as the rest of his family, even though he's tried to keep her clean and away from them her entire life. So just everybody's a little rotten. The story was a little lame. I'm giving this 3 stars, but because it's part of the series, I can't technically get rid of it. Although, I guess I could, because it's not like any of them go together, but I do like having my series, you know, completed. So I will keep this just for the series' sake, but if you are starting the Dublin Murder Squad, I would skip this one. You don't need it to continue on with the series. And I found it lackluster. Like I said, the mystery, this is the first time in a long time that I knew who the killer was immediately. Like in the first or second chapter. And normally I can't do that because I'm pretty naive when I'm reading, and I'm like as dumb as the characters while reading the books. Like, I don't know what's going on. But this time around I was like, ew, that person's sleazy. He's definitely the killer. And then we find out that he is the killer, like in the very last chapter, which took forever, by the way. This book took me forever to read. I started it as a buddy read with Maddie, and she finished it like within a week in November, and I couldn't keep up with her, and so I ended up picking it up on audio. And again, that was the only reason why I was able to finish it, because it was pretty boring. No bueno. All right, the next book I finished, and again, I read this one in a day, is The Invention of Hugo Cabret by Brian Selznick. Now, Penelope from Penelope's Pick sent this to me a few years back. She thought that I would like it and that my kids would like it. And so on New Year's Eve, for 4 hours, from start to finish, I sat down and I read this entire book to my children and bawled my damn eyes out. I was not expecting that whatsoever. So this book has illustrations, all illustrated by Brian Selznick. And then there's the story. And the story is very quick to read. Like I said, it only took me 4 hours to read the entire thing. There's 2 parts of this book. It's about a boy named Hugo Cabret who is from a horologist family. Horology, I didn't know what that was until I looked it up, and that is the study of clocks, or clockmakers. So his family is a bunch of clockmakers. His father worked at a museum when it burned down with him inside it. And so our main character, Hugo, is now an orphan, but he gets picked up by his uncle who oversees all the clocks in the train station where they live. The uncle takes him in and makes him his apprentice, but then one day his uncle doesn't return because he's kind of a drunk, and Hugo decides to continue maintaining the clocks in the station so that way he doesn't lose his home. He doesn't want to go to an orphanage. And also, there's this automaton that his father was working on while he was working at the museum. And it's very intricately done with all these cogs and wheels. It's kind of like a clock in the essence that it has all these different moving parts. And the father was working on it to, you know, make Hugo happy when he died. And so Hugo feels that it's his duty to complete his father's work and continue fixing this automaton. But in order to do so, he needs parts. And because he is like 11 or something, he doesn't have the necessary money, or, you know, he doesn't have access to parts. So he's been stealing from this toy store across the street, and the old man finally catches him, and that's when the story really takes off. It's a sweet story about this man named Georges Malaise, which is a real person. My son, my 13-year-old, looked it up. He was a magician, and he also made movies back in the, you know, black and white days where there was no talking. And he was pretty famous, and then, you know, one day he quit all of that. And the boy is trying to discover where this automaton came from, all the while trying to help George's family and their godchild. And it's just like this huge, epic story and the ending. And whenever I read out loud to my kids, I get choked up more often reading out loud than I do when I'm just reading to myself, like internally. So I was literally bawling at the end of this book when they're talking about the man and his accomplishments. And it was just such a good story. If you haven't picked this up, I highly recommend. Like I said, it's super fast to read. The illustrations are worth picking up the book. And then, of course, the story was so precious. I loved it. All right, the last book that I read, by the way, I gave this one 5 stars. The last book that I read in December, which technically I finished 2 days ago, so the 1st of January, but I'm going to add it in this wrap-up because I only had like 15 pages left before the next day. Anywho, it's If on a Winter's Night a Traveler by Italo. And this book I gave 3.5 stars to. This is a book about books, and it's so bizarre that I can't even describe it. I always leave all of the Goodreads links to my reviews. Please check out my review for this book because it's going to be a lot more well thought out and articulated than I can tell you right now. But basically, this book is about a man who picks up this book. This book's very meta. So he picks up this exact book in a bookstore and he's reading it. And come to find out after like the first, I don't know, 50 pages, the story's gone. It's not completed. And he goes back to the bookstore and the seller's like, sorry, there's something that happened during printing and a lot of these books got messed up, so we're sending it back to the printers. But here is, you can have another book if you want from the same author. And he goes, but I want to read this story. Is it the same story? And he goes, well, actually, the story that you picked up is not the story that the book is about. It's actually this book, so read this book instead. And so what we have in this book is 10 mini stories that you get invested in and are never fulfilled because you don't find out what happens because it breaks it off after like, you know, so many pages. So you are, in essence, the reader from the book continuously being unfulfilled because you are invested in the story. I'm not going to say anything else. Please, please check out my review from Goodreads. It, like I said, is going to be a lot better in writing. This is just such a weird book. And I have a lot of good updates from this book, like, you know, quotes that I really enjoyed from reading this. There's 2 different kinds of readers, in my opinion. There's those that read for fun, and then there's those that read for intellect. We have the people who read for escapism, for the story itself, and those that want to dissect and figure out the meanings behind the actual writing. Symbolism, everything that you've learned in high school and college when you break apart a book. There's those kinds of readers, and then there's those readers that just pick up to be in the world and then to leave the world and move on to the next book. I am that latter person. I like reading for the pleasure of reading. But because this book is so just bizarre, I now have read it once through for the pleasure of it, and now I have to read it again to dissect it, even though that's not the kind of reader I am, just to figure out what the hell's going on. This is an experimental book. I bought it exclusively because it had a different format. I wanted to pick up books that weren't traditionally written from, you know, beginning, middle, and end, and I have done so. This is translated from Italian. The translator is William Weaver. So if you have heard of this classic and you have been interested in reading it, I highly recommend. I would like to discuss this book with somebody because I don't know anybody else who has read it. A lot of people on Instagram, when I posted this picture, said that this was one of their favorites, and I just want to talk about this book. There was parts in it that I just was what the hell is going on? The conspiracy of books in general, censorship, policing of books, just all of this stuff. The ending was bizarre. So please, somebody read this and then discuss it with me. Please, please, because I need to talk about it with somebody. All right, this video is so long. I do apologize, but I wanted to, you know, kind of give you a little bit of backstory of where I've been and why I've been gone for so long, and of course to discuss all of the books. I hope you guys had a wonderful reading month in December. I hope you guys had a wonderful Christmas and New Year's with your family and friends. I hope you guys are healthy and happy and you didn't get sick like I did. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. I will be here again in the next few days with my January TBR, so look forward to that. And that is it. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye!